In the small Austrian village of Thal, on a cold July morning in 1947, Gustav and Aurelia Schwarzenegger welcomed their second son into the world. They named him Arnold, unaware that this child would one day become one of the most recognizable figures in the world and the governor of California. The story of Arnold Schwarzenegger is more than just a tale of success. It's a testament to the power of unwavering determination and the American dream. Young Arnold's childhood was far from luxurious. His family lived in a modest two-story house without basic amenities like indoor plumbing or a refrigerator. His father, a local police chief, ran the household with strict military discipline, a remnant of his service in World War II. Every morning, Arnold and his older brother Meinhard would be awakened before sunrise to complete their chores and exercises before heading to school. While many might have resented such a rigid upbringing, it instilled in Arnold an iron discipline that would later become his greatest asset. At age 13, Arnold made a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. While other boys his age were dreaming of becoming doctors or lawyers, he discovered bodybuilding. It happened by chance when his soccer coach took the team to a local gym for weight training. The moment Arnold laid eyes on the magazines featuring muscular men like Reg Park, who had transformed himself from a bodybuilder into a movie star, he knew he had found his calling. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. The teenage Arnold began training with a ferocious intensity that bordered on obsession. He would break into the local gym on weekends when it was closed, climbing through windows to get his daily workout. When his parents worried that his dedication to bodybuilding was interfering with his studies, he cleverly negotiated a deal. He would maintain good grades in exchange for their support of his training. But Arnold's ambitions extended far beyond the borders of Austria. Late at night, he would lie in his bed, staring at pictures of America torn from magazines and dream of a life across the ocean. The United States represented everything he yearned for: opportunity, freedom, and the chance to become something greater than his circumstances would allow in his homeland. At 18, Arnold's determination began paying dividends when he won his first bodybuilding competition. The victory earned him prize money and local fame, but more importantly, it confirmed what he had always believed, that through sheer will and hard work, he could transform himself into whatever he wanted to be. This victory was followed by mandatory service in the Austrian army, where Arnold's entrepreneurial spirit emerged. He started a successful side business teaching fitness to fellow soldiers, saving every shilling he earned. The defining moment came in 1968 when, at the age of 21, Arnold made the bold decision to move to America. He arrived in California with broken English, little money, and a dream that seemed impossible to most. But he had something that would prove more valuable than any material possession: an unshakable belief in himself and a crystal-clear vision of his future. The America that greeted Arnold was vastly different from the glossy images he'd admired in magazines. He worked multiple jobs, including bricklaying and mail-order business, while pursuing his bodybuilding career. He turned every obstacle into an opportunity, even using his thick Austrian accent to create a unique personal brand that set him apart from others in the bodybuilding world. Within 3 years of arriving in America, Arnold achieved what many considered impossible. He won Mr. Olympia, the most prestigious title in bodybuilding, becoming the youngest champion in history at age 23. But this was just the beginning. Between training sessions, he attended business classes at Santa Monica College, started a successful mail-order business selling training equipment, and began investing in real estate with the money he earned from competitions and coaching. What made Arnold's early years in America truly remarkable was not just his success in bodybuilding, but his ability to see beyond it. While others in the sport were focused solely on their next competition, Arnold was laying the groundwork for a much grander future. He studied acting with voice coaches to soften his accent, though he would later turn it into his trademark, took business courses to understand the American economic system, and built a network of influential friends who would later prove instrumental in his political career. By 1975, Arnold had won Mr. Olympia 7 times, revolutionized the sport of bodybuilding, and amassed a small fortune through his various business ventures. But standing on stage after his final competition victory, he knew this was not the end of his story. It was merely the first chapter. The Austrian oak, as he had become known, was ready to plant his roots even deeper into American soil and reach for heights that would have seemed ludicrous to anyone but him. Looking back at these early years, it's clear that every experience, from the strict discipline of his childhood home to the countless hours in the gym, from the struggles of being an immigrant to the triumphs in competition, was preparing Arnold for the remarkable journey ahead. He had already proven that with enough determination and strategic thinking, he could overcome any obstacle. But his greatest challenges, and most impressive achievements, were still to come. As the 1970s drew to a close, Arnold Schwarzenegger stood at a crossroads. He had conquered the world of bodybuilding, built a successful business empire, and was on the verge of breaking into Hollywood. But even then, few could have predicted that this ambitious immigrant would one day lead the most populous state in America. The foundation had been laid, but the most extraordinary chapters of his story were yet to be written. Hollywood in the late 1970s was a fortress not easily breached, especially for a muscle-bound Austrian with a thick accent. But Arnold Schwarzenegger had already proven himself a master of turning perceived weaknesses into strengths. When casting agents told him his accent was too thick, his name too long, and his body too muscular for mainstream success, Arnold simply smiled. He had heard similar doubts before, and like always he had a plan. His breakthrough came in the unlikely form of a documentary called Pumping Iron, 1977. The film, which followed several bodybuilders preparing for Mr. Olympia competition, revealed Arnold's natural charisma and magnetic personality. While other bodybuilders appeared one-dimensional, Arnold showed himself to be articulate, funny, and surprisingly strategic. The documentary became a surprise hit, and Hollywood began to see him in a different light. But Arnold's first major acting role nearly derailed his career before it began. In Hercules in New York, 1970, his accent was deemed so thick that his lines were dubbed over by another actor. Most aspiring actors would have been devastated, but Arnold used the experience as a learning opportunity. He invested countless hours with speech coaches, though he wisely decided not to eliminate his accent entirely, recognizing it could become part of his unique appeal. It was during this period that Arnold's path crossed with Maria Shriver, a rising television journalist and member of the Kennedy family. Their meeting at a charity tennis tournament in 1977 would prove fateful. Maria was everything Arnold wasn't, born into American political royalty, highly educated, and deeply connected to the Democratic establishment. Yet they found themselves drawn to each other, beginning a relationship that would both challenge and transform them both. The 1980s marked Arnold's explosive rise to superstardom. His role as Conan the Barbarian in 1982 established him as an action star, but it was his portrayal of the Terminator in 1984 that catapulted him to global fame. The role, which initially seemed limiting, a robot with barely 17 lines of dialogue, became iconic. Arnold turned, "I'll be back," into one of the most quoted movie lines in history, his accent making it instantly recognizable. Behind the scenes, Arnold was proving himself to be as shrewd in Hollywood as he had been in bodybuilding and business. While other action stars simply took their paychecks, he negotiated for profit participation in his films and carefully selected roles that would broaden his appeal. He surprised many by successfully transitioning into comedy with films like Twins and Kindergarten Cop, showing range that few had expected from the action star. His marriage to Maria Shriver in 1986 brought him into the inner circle of American political life. The wedding was a high-profile affair that merged two seemingly disparate worlds, Hollywood glamour and Kennedy-style political royalty. Through Maria, Arnold gained intimate exposure to American politics at its highest levels, attending family gatherings where policy discussions were as common as dinner-table conversation. But Arnold wasn't content to be merely an observer of political life. He began taking an active interest in public service, accepting President George H.W. Bush's appointment as chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports in 1990. The role allowed him to visit all 50 states, promoting health and fitness while building valuable political connections across party lines. During this time, Arnold and Maria were raising their growing family. They would eventually have 4 children, while both pursuing ambitious careers. Their Brentwood mansion became a unique intersection of Hollywood, journalism, and politics, hosting gatherings that brought together leaders from various fields. These connections would prove invaluable in Arnold's future political career. The 1990s saw Arnold at the height of his Hollywood power, commanding $20 million per film and becoming one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. But those who knew him well could see that he was beginning to look for new challenges. His conversations increasingly turned to politics and public policy, particularly education and environmental issues. When he wasn't filming, Arnold devoted considerable time to charitable causes, particularly the Special Olympics, which had been founded by Maria's mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver. His involvement gave him first-hand experience in advocacy and public service, while also helping him understand the inner workings of large organizations and the importance of building coalitions. By the late 1990s, rumors began circulating that Arnold might be considering a future in politics. While he publicly dismissed such speculation, those close to him knew he was carefully studying political issues and building relationships with key political figures across the political spectrum. His unique position, a Republican married into the Kennedy family, gave him a perspective on American politics that few others could claim. As the new millennium approached, Arnold Schwarzenegger had achieved success beyond his wildest dreams. He was one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, a successful businessman with a diverse investment portfolio, and had married into one of America's most prominent political families. Yet for those who knew him best, there was a sense that he was just getting started. The stage was set for Arnold's next great transformation. California, the state that had welcomed him as a penniless immigrant and made him a star, was about to face unprecedented challenges. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, the man who had already reinvented himself multiple times, was preparing for his most dramatic role yet, one that would take him from the silver screen to the political arena, and test everything he had learned in his remarkable journey so far. The story continues in Part 3, where we'll explore the dramatic circumstances that led to Arnold's entry into politics and his historic campaign for governor of California. California in 2003 was a state in crisis. Rolling blackouts had left millions without power, the dot-com bubble burst had devastated the economy, and the state faced a staggering $38 billion budget deficit. Public anger was mounting against Governor Gray Davis, whose approval rating had plummeted to a mere 22%. A grassroots movement to recall the governor, once considered a political impossibility, was gaining momentum. For Arnold Schwarzenegger, watching these events unfold was like seeing the perfect storm gather. He had been quietly considering a future in politics for years, but the conventional path, starting with local office or Congress, held little appeal for a man who had never done anything conventionally. The recall election offered a unique opportunity, a shortened campaign season that would favor a candidate with instant name recognition and the ability to self-fund. The decision to run wasn't made lightly. Maria Shriver, despite her Democratic roots, proved to be a crucial advisor. During long walks on the beach near their home, they discussed the implications for their family and his legacy. Arnold knew that entering politics would mean subjecting his entire life to scrutiny, and that his past, including his wild years in Hollywood, would be examined under a microscope. The announcement of his candidacy came with trademark Schwarzenegger showmanship. On August 6, 2003, Arnold appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. What was expected to be a routine promotional appearance for his latest Terminator film turned into a political earthquake when he declared, "I'm going to run for governor of California." The audience erupted in cheers, but political experts were skeptical. Many dismissed it as a publicity stunt or ego trip. What followed was one of the most extraordinary campaigns in American political history. The recall election attracted 135 candidates, including everyone from career politicians to adult film stars, making it seem more like a circus than a serious political contest. But while others treated the election as a joke, Arnold assembled a serious campaign team, combining Hollywood marketing expertise with veteran political operatives. His campaign style was uniquely his own. He turned his celebrity status into an advantage, drawing crowds that dwarfed those of traditional politicians. His campaign bus tours became media events, with thousands turning out to see the action star in person. When critics complained that he wasn't specific enough about his plans, he replied with characteristic humor. "The public doesn't care about figures. Did you ever see a movie where you saw a hit because someone was good with figures?" But beneath the showmanship was serious preparation. Arnold had spent years studying public policy through his involvement with the President's Council on Physical Fitness and various charitable organizations. He surrounded himself with expert advisors, including Warren Buffett and former Secretary of State George Shultz. His platform combined fiscal conservatism with social moderation and environmental advocacy, a uniquely Californian blend that appealed to voters across the political spectrum. The campaign faced its share of challenges. Democrats attacked his lack of political experience, while some Republicans questioned his moderate social views. Stories about his behavior on movie sets surfaced, threatening to derail his candidacy. But Arnold faced the allegations head-on, admitting that he had behaved badly sometimes, while working in Hollywood, and apologizing for any offense he had caused. His directness, combined with his wife's steadfast support, helped him weather the storm. One of the campaign's defining moments came during a debate with his opponents. When accused of lacking specific plans, Arnold pulled out a broom and declared, "We're going to clean house in Sacramento." The gesture was pure theater, but it resonated with voters frustrated with traditional politics. His promise to be the people's governor and to pump up Sacramento might have seemed corny coming from anyone else, but from Arnold, they felt authentic. The final weeks of the campaign were intense. Arnold crisscrossed the state, often holding multiple rallies per day. His message remained consistent. California needed an outsider who could stand up to special interests and bring fresh thinking to Sacramento. He promised to refuse a salary and pledged to work for the people, not the political establishment. On October 7, 2003, California voters made history. They voted to recall Governor Gray Davis and elected Arnold Schwarzenegger as his replacement. The margin of victory was decisive. Arnold received more votes than all other replacement candidates combined. The immigrant bodybuilder turned actor had achieved what many had thought impossible. He was now the governor of America's most populous state. The election night victory speech captured the extraordinary nature of the moment. "I came to California 35 years ago because I saw this state as the place where anyone could achieve anything," Arnold declared. "Tonight, we prove that California's promise is still alive." Standing beside him, Maria Shriver beamed with pride, while their children looked on in amazement. But even as supporters celebrated, Arnold knew that the real challenges lay ahead. He had won the election by promising to terminate the deficit and reform Sacramento's dysfunctional political culture. Now he would have to deliver, and do so in a state where either party held a clear majority and compromise was essential for progress. As he prepared to take office, Arnold was about to discover that governing California would be his toughest role yet. The next chapter would test everything he had learned in his remarkable journey from immigrant to movie star to political leader. The question now was, could the action hero actually save the day in real life? The story continues in Part 4, where we'll explore Arnold's early years as governor and the unexpected challenges he faced in trying to reform America's most complex state. On November 17, 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger was sworn in as the 38th governor of California. The ceremony itself was a powerful symbol of the American dream, an immigrant taking the oath of office to lead the nation's most populous state. But the celebration would be brief. California's problems weren't going to wait for the new governor to settle in. True to his campaign promises, Arnold's first acts as governor were dramatic and unconventional. He refused his $175,000 salary, choosing instead to work for free. He converted one of his Hummers to run on hydrogen fuel to demonstrate his commitment to environmental protection. And in a move that captured media attention worldwide, he occasionally rode his bicycle to the Capitol, with his security detail struggling to keep up on their bikes. The honeymoon period was short-lived. Within his first 100 days, Arnold faced the harsh realities of governing a state as complex as California. The budget deficit had grown even larger than initially reported, powerful unions opposed his reform agenda, and the Democratic-controlled legislature viewed his celebrity status with skepticism. But Arnold approached these challenges the same way he had approached every other obstacle in his life, with a combination of determination, strategic thinking, and showmanship. His first major battle came when he tried to reform the state's workers' compensation system, which was among the most expensive in the nation. When legislators resisted his proposals, Arnold took his case directly to the people. He held rallies across the state, threatening to put the issue on the ballot if the legislature didn't act. His catchphrase, "If they don't do their job, I'll do their job for them," resonated with voters. Faced with the prospect of a popular referendum, the legislature compromised, passing reforms that saved businesses billions. However, not all of Arnold's initiatives met with success. His ambitious 2005 special election, where he put 4 major reform measures on the ballot, ended in defeat. Labor unions and Democratic activists mobilized against him, spending millions to defeat his proposals. The experience taught Arnold a valuable lesson about the limits of his popularity and the need for bipartisan cooperation. This defeat led to one of the most remarkable transformations in American political history. The Governator, as he had become known, reinvented himself once again. He apologized to voters for not listening enough, hired a Democratic chief of staff, and began working more closely with the legislature. His new approach emphasized environmental protection, infrastructure investment, and bipartisan problem solving. The results were impressive. Arnold signed the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, making California a world leader in fighting climate change. He championed stem cell research when the federal government restricted it. He pushed through a $42 billion infrastructure bond package to rebuild California's aging roads, schools, and levees. And he reformed the state's redistricting system to reduce partisan gerrymandering. But governing California during this period was like riding a roller coaster. Just as the state seemed to be turning around, the 2008 financial crisis hit. The housing market collapsed, unemployment soared, and the state's budget problems returned with a vengeance. Arnold found himself making painful cuts to programs he supported while simultaneously fighting for tax increases to prevent even deeper cuts, positions that angered both conservatives and liberals. Through it all, Arnold maintained his unique style. He set up a smoking tent in the Capitol courtyard where legislators of both parties could come to negotiate over cigars. He would sometimes carry a prop sword from Conan the Barbarian into budget meetings. And he became famous for sending legislators who opposed his initiatives metal sculptures of bull testicles, a not-so-subtle message about their need for courage. His marriage to Maria Shriver continued to be both a personal anchor and political asset. Despite their different political affiliations, they worked together on initiatives like California's Conference on Women and Families. Maria's counsel was particularly valuable during times of crisis, helping Arnold navigate the complex intersection of policy and politics. The final years of his governorship were dominated by the Great Recession and its aftermath. Arnold had to make difficult decisions that pleased nobody, cutting spending on popular programs while also raising some taxes. Yet he never lost his optimism or his belief in California's potential. He continued to push for reform until his last day in office, signing bills to reduce pension costs and improve government transparency. When Arnold left office in 2011, his legacy was complex. He hadn't solved all of California's problems, no governor could have, but he had made significant progress in areas like environmental protection, political reform, and infrastructure investment. More importantly, he had demonstrated that an outsider could successfully govern the nation's largest state, even during times of crisis. His departure from Sacramento wasn't the end of his public service. Arnold became an outspoken advocate for environmental protection and political reform, launching the Schwarzenegger Institute for State and Global Policy at USC. He continued to fight for causes he believed in, particularly climate change and redistricting reform, showing that his commitment to public service extended beyond his time in office. Looking back at his 7 years as governor, it's clear that Arnold Schwarzenegger's time in office was as dramatic and unprecedented as his path to getting there. He had brought his unique combination of determination, showmanship, and pragmatism to one of the most challenging jobs in American politics. While not every initiative succeeded, he had proven that the same qualities that had made him a champion bodybuilder and movie star could be applied to governing, with remarkable results. The story continues in Part 5, where we'll examine Arnold's lasting impact on California and American politics, his life after leaving office, and the lessons his extraordinary journey teaches us about leadership and the American dream. As Arnold Schwarzenegger left the governor's office in January 2011, California and the nation were still reeling from the Great Recession. Yet even in those challenging times, his departure from Sacramento marked something remarkable: the successful conclusion of one of the most improbable political stories in American history. The immigrant bodybuilder who became a Hollywood star had completed 2 full terms as governor of America's largest state, leaving behind a legacy that would influence politics and public policy for years to come. The transition out of public office brought both personal and professional challenges. Shortly after leaving Sacramento, Arnold and Maria Shriver announced their separation, ending their 25-year marriage. The news shocked many who had seen them as a power couple that successfully bridged the political divide between Republicans and Democrats. Yet even in this personal crisis, Arnold handled the situation with characteristic directness, taking public responsibility for his actions and focusing on maintaining relationships with his children. Rather than retreat from public life, Arnold channeled his energy into new ventures that combined his unique experience and passions. He established the Schwarzenegger Institute for State and Global Policy at the University of Southern California, creating a think tank focused on finding bipartisan solutions to major challenges. The institute became a platform for advancing causes he had championed as governor, particularly environmental protection and political reform. Climate change became one of his signature issues. Arnold emerged as an unlikely but powerful voice in the environmental movement, challenging fellow Republicans to accept the science of climate change and take action. His message was unique. He argued that environmental protection and economic growth could go hand in hand, using California's experience during his governorship as proof. He traveled the world, speaking at climate conferences and meeting with world leaders, becoming one of the most prominent advocates for environmental action. His fight against partisan gerrymandering also continued. The redistricting reform he had championed in California became a model for other states, and Arnold became a national spokesman for the cause. He argued that partisan district drawing was undermining democracy, leading to political polarization and gridlock. His voice carried special weight because he had seen the problem firsthand as governor and had successfully implemented a solution. In an era of increasing political division, Arnold maintained his independent streak. He became an outspoken critic of political extremism and partisan gridlock, often using his significant social media following to advocate for centrist, pragmatic solutions. His criticism wasn't limited to either party. He was equally willing to challenge Republicans and Democrats when he felt they were putting party interests ahead of the public good. His influence extended beyond traditional politics. Arnold returned to entertainment, but with a different focus. He began hosting The Celebrity Apprentice, though his tenure was brief, as he refused to compromise his principles when the show became entangled in political controversies. He also returned to movies, but often chose roles that reflected his maturity and evolution as a public figure. The Schwarzenegger Institute became a hub for policy innovation, bringing together experts from across the political spectrum to address challenges ranging from environmental protection to education reform. The Institute's work reflected Arnold's belief that most problems could be solved if people focused on common goals rather than partisan differences. His relationship with his children remained a priority. Despite the family challenges, Arnold maintained close ties with all his children, supporting their various endeavors while trying to pass on the values that had driven his success: hard work, determination, and public service. His children, in turn, began making their own marks in various fields, from writing and entertainment to business and advocacy. As the years passed, Arnold's journey became increasingly recognized as a uniquely American story. Universities began studying his governorship as a case study in political leadership. His environmental advocacy earned him recognition from organizations that had once been skeptical of him. And his continued push for political reform gained support from across the political spectrum. In his public speeches and writings, Arnold often reflected on the lessons of his extraordinary life. He emphasized that success in any field, whether bodybuilding, entertainment, politics, or advocacy, required the same basic elements: a clear vision, relentless determination, the willingness to work harder than anyone else, and the ability to learn from failures. He particularly stressed the importance of giving back to the country that had given him so much opportunity. The COVID-19 pandemic provided another platform for Arnold to demonstrate leadership. He became an influential voice promoting public health measures, using his platform to encourage vaccination and mask wearing. His video messages, often delivered from his kitchen table with his pet donkey and miniature horse in the background, reached millions and helped cut through the partisan divide over public health measures. Looking back at Arnold Schwarzenegger's complete journey, from post-war Austria to the governor's mansion in Sacramento and beyond, several themes emerge. First is the power of reinvention. Throughout his life, Arnold has shown a remarkable ability to transform himself while maintaining his essential character. Second is the importance of bridge building. Whether in entertainment, politics, or advocacy, he has consistently worked to bring people together rather than divide them. Perhaps most importantly, Arnold's story demonstrates that the American dream remains alive. His journey from immigrant to governor represents what's possible in America when talent and determination meet opportunity. Yet his story also shows that success brings responsibility, the obligation to help others and to give back to the society that made such success possible. As Arnold Schwarzenegger continues his work in public life, his legacy grows increasingly complex and meaningful. He represents something rare in American public life, a figure who transcends traditional political boundaries, who can speak to multiple audiences, and who consistently advocates for long-term solutions over short-term political gain. His journey from bodybuilder to actor to governor to elder statesman serves as both an inspiration and a reminder that in America, anything remains possible. The story of Arnold Schwarzenegger is far from over. He continues to evolve, to advocate for causes he believes in, and to influence public debate. But more than any specific achievement, his lasting legacy may be the example he sets, that with vision, determination, and the willingness to work harder than anyone else, it's possible to not just achieve your dreams, but to use that success to make a lasting difference in the world.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.